Thank you, Jacob. Everything going on here at UUCP can be found in our website, phoenixu.org, and on a weekly newsletter, Compass. If you find the holidays difficult, we hope you will join us for our Blue Holidays service this Thursday at 6 p.m. in person and on Zoom. For those in person, we will be offering childcare. Your civic engagement team encourages you to start now to set aside gently used cold weather clothing to donate to asylum seekers heading to cold climates to await their hearings. We will collect them at the back table on next Sunday, December 18th, and from noon to 2 p.m. on Saturday, December 31st, in the upper parking lot. And today, after service, we are having a very special coffee hour. Bunny Hodis and Dale Wabush were married in this sanctuary 1 year ago today, with only about 5 of us in person and everyone else on Zoom. Today, we get to celebrate their 1-year anniversary with goodies during coffee hour. And Dale and Bunny, they're very identifiable because they're in their wedding clothes. So please, come and celebrate with us. And finally today, we're very lucky to welcome our guest pianist that you have heard, composer and teacher Jacob Adler. And he played earlier and will be playing for the offering also. Now, regarding the offering, each month we split all undesignated funds from the offering 50-50 with a different organization. For December, our Share the Plate partner is Arizona Helping Hands. Arizona Helping Hands provides essential services to children in foster care, including basic needs like beds, cribs, and diapers, school needs like backpacks and notebooks, personalized birthday packages, and foot lockers where they can keep belongings, and also home safety requirements like fire extinguishers. You can put cash in the basket as is passed. Ushers can come forward. Text UUCP STP to 73256. Donate through the website or send a check. If you are paying a pledge to UUCP, please indicate that on the check. For all that you give to our congregation and our community, we are so grateful.
You all thought I was kidding last week, didn't you? I'm Katie Resendez, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. And I am wearing a hard hat because, one, I'm terrified of concussions. And two, we are getting ready for our Christmas pageant, and we still have a few things that we need help with and help gathering. Please check the bulletin board out by the front door, because you probably have something in your house that we could use, like a hard hat. Oh, there. If anyone would like to come join me up here, I think I'll tell a story. What do you think? Okay. I'm gonna stretch and get into my body a little bit. I encourage all of you to do the same as well, especially if you rushed in last minute and sat wherever and are squished and feeling a little weird. Take a minute to wiggle into your body. Woo. Don't worry, it's a hard hat. So we're wiggling a little bit because I'm going to tell you a story about something that stayed very still. Very, very still. I was born a long, long time ago, and I started out as just a seed. When my mother's leaves dropped to the ground in the wind and the seeds traveled with it, and I blew and blew and blew, and then I found a spot on the ground that was perfect. The soil was soft, the ground tasted delicious, and I sat there, cozy and protected, until I knew it was time to start growing. And I reached from the seed up through the soil into the air, and I took root. And I got bigger and bigger and bigger, and my roots got so strong, and my trunk got thick and sturdy, and I started to branch out. Show me how you branch out. And our branching is a way that we reach up and stretch, but it is also a way that we hover over and protect. And by the time I was that big, I was a sturdy tree. I spread shade over a large area. I had knobbly roots that made great places to nestle in and sit and be protected. I was a tree. Trees don't do a lot. I sat, I watched, I listened. My brothers and my sisters connected with me through the roots and through my leaves, and we could talk, but I didn't run any marathons. I didn't cook dinner very often. I stood. The thing is, I knew I had that job. I knew being still was my purpose. So I practiced. So let's branch out and be still. 3 long breaths. And what if it was through those breaths that you talked to the world? That's how it was for me. Through my breathing and through my roots, I got messages. And I heard that there was a group of people in a forest over here near other trees who wanted to seek holiness. And they thought that they could be holy through suffering. And not just the pain of everyday life, which we all know is painful enough, but they intentionally would hurt themselves. Beds of nails, hot coals, dragging their feet through anthills. Now, Arizona kids, what do you think of dragging your feet through anthills? We know better. And those people did suffer, and my heart went out for them because I didn't want them to suffer. And then one day, this is where you know the story changes, because suddenly we have a day. Then one day, a young man was traveling from that forest where all of that intentional suffering was happening towards my forest. And I could see that he was hurt, and I could see that he was seeking holiness. And I could see that he was tired, but he was determined. And I stood quiet and still and he saw me. And when he saw me, he noticed how tall I was, and he noticed the way I stretched out and stretched up. And he noticed that in between my roots, he could nestle. So he found a good spot to sit in. He made his back nice and straight. And I could feel in between my roots him become more peaceful. I could feel that my breathing and connecting with the world was feeding him, not through his stomach, but through his spirit. And that being at the base of my roots made him stronger. And so I did what I always did. I stayed still. And I stood over him for a day. He didn't move for a whole day. And then it was 2 days. And then it was 3 days. And then it was 7 days times another 7 days. Jera, how many days is that?
49 days.
49 days of being still under a tree. And show me, how did the tree look the whole time? And when the wind came, how did the tree look? And when the rain came, how did the tree look? And when it was dry and sunny, how did it look? And how did the young man look for 49 days? Dry and safe and protected. And all I did was be me the whole time. And at the end of that time, the young man seemed different, seemed really important different. For humans, seemed very, very important different. But he was still the young man that had sat at my roots. He stood up from his spot. He turned to me and said, "Thank you." And he left. And what did I do? Why did he thank me? What was my role? I don't really know. I'm a tree. I don't understand humans. But I appreciated the chance to give him love, and I appreciated that he loved me back. And now, every year, I am celebrated because I'm the Bodhi tree, and this past Wednesday was my birthday. Thank you. People come and lay fruit and candles and offerings of water and honey and all sorts of things at my feet to celebrate the way that I stood still, the way I protected and guarded the Buddha while he was seeking enlightenment. You are all so very, very loved and very powerful, even in your stillness. Let's go back to it.
Jacob, how blessed we are to have you with us today. And I could sit for 7 times 7 days under a Bodhi tree listening to that. Yeah, beautiful. So it is the time for our joys and sorrows that we have as a community. Being together, it is good to share, and to support each other, and to connect. And I left them right under my... So folks on Zoom, please feel free to enter the joys and sorrows into the chat, putting your name at the beginning. Those of you here in person, there's a table right back there, and they were brought up to me earlier. I do want to note a couple in our community. I want to let you know that Sally Boyd was in the hospital for about a week. I got to see her. A lot of our community folks have been with her. She is back in the health center down at Friendship Villages and is gaining strength and doing much better. I also want to just hope that everyone takes care and is careful. In Maricopa County, our infection rate for COVID is back up to high. And as much as we want this to be over, I just wish you all to be safe and careful. Let us turn to the joys and sorrows on Zoom. I have one, let's see, let me shake, from Amy Miskell. A joy I am concerned about. That is a good way to handle both of them, Amy. I will be having spinal surgery on Wednesday morning. A bulging disc will be removed and vertebrae will be fused. This is overdue and will hopefully give me a better quality of life. All well wishes, prayers, chants, lit candles, etc. are welcome for this to be a success. We will need help with meals and rides to appointments for a while. I am thankful for the Unit Care Committee. And yes, we have set up a meal train if you all look for ways you can support with meals this coming Encompass this week. Amy, we are wishing you as painless of a process, as fast of healing, and an excellent result. From Peyton Jones up in our booth, joy, I had the pleasure with singing with my school choirs this past Friday at Camelback Bible, a truly thrilling feeling to experience. Looking forward to many more moments of friendship and celebration like that this season with friends old and new. Hooray, Peyton. It's wonderful. A joy and gratitude from Ann Lackey that my daughter Jen had a successful marathon run this morning, placing second in her age group and qualifying for the Boston Marathon. Wow, Ann, that's amazing. As I'm reading it, I'm like, what? Wow, that's amazing. And we've got some sorrows from Mira Shaw. Says, my niece Colette Warren was hospitalized yesterday with pneumonia. We are sending hope and quick healing to her. And to Eric Chapman about COVID-19. My mother-in-law, my wife, my son, and I all had COVID. That's the sorrow. The joy is that we are all recovered. I'm so glad to hear that. Be gentle in your recovery. And a joy, from Jade Barger. A joy, the VA has accepted my gender marker change. And from the VA's perspective, Jade is now formally known as Lieutenant Jade Barger, retired. Congratulations. That's awesome. Totally awesome. And then, of course, a joy from Dale and Bunny, their anniversary. 1 year ago, we got married in this space. It was right there. We are blessed, and join us in celebration afterwards. And I saw some of the food and treats that they brought in. It will be well worth it. Plus, you have to see Bunny in this dress. This dress is exquisite, exquisite. And I think that's all. Oh, there's one more. From Kathy Tadai, a sorrow and a joy. My mother, Noreen Wilkins, passed last Monday. Rev Christine was instrumental in her peaceful passing by providing loving counsel, comfort, and support to her and my brother. And Kathy and Christine and Chris, I am sending so much love to your family, and what an honor it was for me to be involved in this peaceful and beautiful passing. Your mom was a powerhouse. So I would love for us to just send some love to each other, folks on screen, folks on Zoom, knowing that there are joys and sorrows that are stated and not stated in the silent sanctuaries of our house, in our hearts. In our time of meditation and with our exploration of Buddhism, it feels only appropriate that we spend some time in some Buddhist meditation. The one that is most common and most powerful is called the Prayer of Loving Kindness. It's often referred to as the metta prayer. It is basic, and yet it is challenging. I invite you to settle into a position that is comfortable and grounded, and I want you to set your mind into the intention of meditation. Take a deep couple breaths. We are going to start by blessing ourselves. It's not always easy, but it is a place that is familiar. You can picture yourself now or as a small child. Fill your heart with loving kindness and say to yourself, "May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be at ease." The next step The next step is to think of someone close to you, someone that you care about very much. Place them in your heart and your mind and say as if to them, "May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at ease." The next layer is to think about someone you feel ambivalent about. You may not be close, you may not be far. This could be a random human in your life, just regular people going along. As you think of them, put them into your heart. Say, "May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at ease." The next level is to think of someone you are in conflict with. Now, this is a tricky one. Do this only if it feels like you can send them loving kindness. Only you can determine who that person is and what level of person that is. But this is someone that's a stretch for your heart. And this is not necessarily about them. It is about opening your heart. Say as if to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at ease. We now have the opportunity to stretch to the whole world, to the people in our communities, our state, small and large groups of people, all of the countries in the world, to the leaders and the most vulnerable. Say as if to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at ease. And in Buddhism, we learn that the most important focus is focusing on ourselves. So let's return to ourselves in this meditation. Blessing yourself may be easier, or it may be harder than blessing the world. Open your heart and say to yourself, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be at ease. I invite you to sit with this loving kindness energy in your heart for yourself and others as we go into an extended music meditation. I turn it over to Jacob Adler to explain this extraordinary piece he's about to play.
Good morning. I just want to say it's really wonderful to, I think it's good. Well, I want to say it's really wonderful to spend the morning with you and play some music. The next composition I'm going to play is called In a Landscape, which was composed by John Cage in 1948. And John Cage was one of the most influential composers in the second half of the 20th century, and his musical philosophy and aesthetic was deeply inspired by Zen Buddhism. He heard music in the ambient noise of the environment and invited people to appreciate that form of music, and he infused his compositions with randomness, consulting the I Ching, the Chinese Book of Changes, for compositional and musical decisions. The piece In a Landscape, he describes the purpose of the music is to, quote, sober and quiet the mind, thus rendering it susceptible to divine influences.
Thank you, Jacob. My name is Donna Featherston, and my pronouns are she and her. It's so nice to have this cheering section this morning. We're contemplating sources of hope in faith traditions, and because he knows that I have an enduring love for Buddhist teachings and practice, Gary Ezzell asked about my thoughts on what brings me hope in those teachings. So, the three jewels of Buddhism are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And each of these jewels has been a source of hope. I love that the Buddha did not hold himself out as a god. Instead, he said he was a man who woke up to the true nature of things. And his key teaching is that we have the capacity to wake up also. I grew up dependent on an outside deity for salvation. The message was, you're sinful, imperfect, incomplete. But Buddhism teaches, like our first principle of inherent worth and dignity, that we have a Buddha nature. And we're like buried jewels that can be uncovered. We're like lotus flowers that grow from the mud. So when I struggle with anxiety, I can think of myself as an anxious Buddha, and which in my mind is much better than just being anxious. I can be a cranky Buddha, a happy Buddha, an anxious Buddha. It's a reminder that I am whole. So the second jewel of Buddhism is the Dharma. It's all the collective, beautiful collective wisdom of the Buddhist teachings. And so many offer hope, what we've experienced this morning, loving kindness, compassion, mindfulness. But the first teaching that came to my mind was the teaching on impermanence. And how many of us have taken refuge in that thought of this too shall pass? And so the last jewel is the Sangha, the Buddhist term for the beloved community that calls us to our highest values. And those are the noble friends. Noble friends, I'm looking at you. Friends who share your principles, who strive with you, who care and listen. And when I think of our UU sources, for years I've quietly in my own mind added my fellow UUs to the list of those sources. And being with and learning from friends who've dealt with hardship, who've grown past limitations, who've raised children, and in learning from those who don't accept the status quo, particularly our younger folks in the congregation. And so I was glad when I saw that our new draft of changes, proposed draft to changes of the principles, put some words to this. We covenant to learn from one another and openly explore the depth and breadth of our many wisdoms. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. That is the hopefulness of our larger UU Sangha. So, though I've been speaking about the larger congregation as a form of Sangha, our congregation has a smaller Buddhist Sangha, which meets online on Zoom twice a month, second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Excuse me, Thursday. I misspoke there. And we are a self-led group. We meet in meditation together, sometimes silent, sometimes guided, and then we have a pass the book style reading from a Buddhist author followed by a time of sharing our thoughts on practice and reading, the reading. If you're interested, please feel free to speak to me or to Catherine Cruz, who's in the back. And, or just come, the link is in the compass. Thank you.
Does anyone need to stand like a Bodhi tree and just stretch? I welcome you to if you need to. Feel the wisdom in you, the wisdom in your roots, your foundation, your trunk, your branches. You are beautiful and wise. My heart is filled with loving kindness, and my computer was not plugged in. And I always have a backup. Thank you for your patience. If you were to peel back my hair, my skin, and my skull, and if you could see what was happening in my brain, you would see a classic example of the Buddhist concept of the monkey brain. What's my plan for today? What happened yesterday? What's on my to-do list? I need to make sure that I talk to this person. Oh, wow, I really screwed that conversation up. What was that thing I was supposed to remember? Yeah, I don't remember it. Is it really December 11th already? Yikes. Geez, I really like her scarf. My brain looks pretty much like my search engine does right now. A hot mess with all of the tabs open, questionable power sometimes, and so small that you can't even tell what they all are. The great challenge and opportunity of my life, the one that I keep learning over and over, we all have one of those, right? The one thing that we keep having to relearn. Mine is be here now. Here in the present moment, right here, connecting with my true self, just being in the stream of the universe that connects us all. Because of that, I find Buddhism very powerful, and I find it very challenging. We continue today with our sermon series for the year, looking at what the different world religions teach us about the concept of collective liberation and how we can find hope from them in these times where we honestly need to draw from as many sources as we possibly can. Now, I took an entire semester of Buddhism in seminary, and it is fair to say that we only scratched the surface there. And there are so many different types of Buddhism practiced in all of the areas of the world differently, with so much history, that it would be fair to say that we're not going to even cover what is the size of my little pinky. My collective liberation pinky, that is. But Buddhism starts with the story of seekers. Seekers who explored faith. They came to Buddha. Are you God? They asked. No. I can't even. It just died. I think they're trying to teach me about Buddhism and just being here now, right? And I think it's saying, put that right over there. We're going to try this again. Seekers who explored faith came to Buddha. Are you a god? They asked. No. An angel? No. A saint? No. Then what are you? Buddha answered, I am awake. His answer became his title because that's what Buddha means. The Sanskrit root Buddh means both to wake up and to know. Buddha essentially means the enlightened one, and Buddhism entails the practice of becoming more enlightened, more like Buddha. Practitioners of Buddhism use meditation to be in the current moment and to use it to connect with one's true self to alleviate suffering in our minds. Religious professor Leonard Swindler differentiates Buddhism from other religions this way. Buddhism uses the language of from below or from within, whereas religions with God-centered orientations like Christianity and other Abrahamic religions use the language from above or from without. That orientation can be helpful for us to consider. Buddhism is also a little bit like Unitarian Universalism in that it doesn't require adhering to one specific doctrine or belief statement. Buddhism works well with people of differing belief systems as long as meditation and believing that you can connect inwards fits within that structure. So in exploring collective liberation, we have a challenge in exploring it. So because Buddhism versus other faiths is inherently so individual. It is using meditation, it is using your own mind, it is connecting with your own true self to liberate your mind and release the suffering. So how can we use Buddhism to explore the collective part of liberation? Well, I'm drawing today from plenty of experts of Buddhism that say that it is possible and inevitable and necessary part of Buddhism. Many of them are pushing within the current movements of Buddhism to embrace these possibilities more fully. Ruben Habito is a professor of world religions and spirituality and an author of several books on Zen Buddhism, which is one of the types of Buddhism. He explains that Zen Buddhism is a path to enlightenment of one's own self and explains its relationship to liberation this way. To liberate all beings is to liberate oneself and vice versa. He says that the path of awakening means that we can't just seek our own liberation because our own liberation isn't separate or independent from those of others. This feels to me like Unitarian Universalist seventh principle of seeing that interconnected web of all existence and our own part in it. Buddhism especially encourages the practitioner to see things as they truly are, on a deep and interconnected level. Habito says, in seeing things as they truly are, one arrives at peace with oneself, peace with the world, and the entire universe. One thereby seeks to offer this deep, deep inner peace to all beings whom one embraces in a heart of boundless compassion. To see things as they truly are is to see oneself as not separate from, but rather connected with everything and everyone, enabling one to bear the pain of the world as one's own pain and share in the joys of all beings as one's very own. Now, this connectedness was a main tenet of one of the most famous contemporary Zen Buddhists and Nobel Peace Prize nominee, Thich Nhat Hanh, who died earlier this year. He explores this true self and our connectedness with others in his poem called "Please Call Me by My True Names." The master says, I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. Take a breath and take that in. We think of ourselves often in our connection with the child, the poor, and the suffering. And Buddhism also, there's the challenging part, says we are connected to those who cause the suffering. And we are every being in between. So what these Buddhists are teaching us is that our own enlightenment is not enough. It must be connected to the suffering and enlightenment of all. It must be for all. And seeing our true selves means seeing how we are interconnected with everyone else. It's a lot to sit with, to meditate about, and to be with. In the book that inspired this sermon series, The Hope of Liberation in World Religions, there is a section exploring Buddhism as it is practiced in Thailand. The author is Tavivat Puntgar Evaviat, who is a program director at the World Buddhist University and is editor-in-chief of the literary magazine published by the World Fellowship of Buddhists. He is really pushing his fellow Buddhists to push beyond their personal work to collective liberation. He uses Buddhism in Thailand as an example of that. Before Thailand was modernized in a post-capitalistic world, the Buddhist monastery was the center of the village life, and the monks were its cultural leaders. They taught culture and rituals, but also education and medical care. The Buddhist values of sharing and cooperation defined the community. However, in modern society, this structure has collapsed, and now the Buddhist sanghas, or communities, are controlled by the government. The monks depend on food given to them by the Thai people, the majority of them who are poor and oppressed. He encourages followers to look at Buddhism from the socio-political perspective that aims at social justice. Greed is seen not just in an individual terms, but also as a built-in mechanism of oppressive social structures. If greed is to be reduced or eliminated, therefore personal restraint will not be enough. These social structures need to be changed as well. Many Buddhists seek liberation. You might be familiar with the term nirvana, by practicing meditation, but they do not pay sufficient attention enough to the ways society in which they live is organized. The author says, I wish to offer a challenge to Buddhist ethical values by interpreting liberation as necessarily involving social as well as political liberation. He says if we consider Buddhist liberation theology from a more structural perspective, we are forced to see that greed and hatred and delusion, which Buddhism identifies as the root of all harmful things, they currently prevail. And in order to overcome them, a person must not change only their personal conduct or lifestyle, but also the systems that create that structural greed, hatred, and delusion. To be very clear, the hope from Buddhism doesn't come from enlightenment itself, because we do not achieve enlightenment. Actually, the hope comes from the practicing. The practicing is always the ways of trying to connect with our direction towards enlightenment. It is the hope of connecting with our true selves and therefore connecting with the true self of all of existence. On its surface, Buddhism seems like it is a practice that is preoccupied with the studying of the individual self. But the hope and the practice of Buddhism is that by exploring the self, we realize that the self is not separate from, better than, or different from all the myriad things in the universe. If separation disappears, then there is no other. If there is no other, then we can envision the oneness of all. And with that mindset, we can truly live into the concept that none of us is free of suffering until all of us are free from suffering. May you be free of suffering. May we all be free of suffering. May you be filled with loving kindness. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May you be at peace. May we all be at peace. May it be so.
So nice that we've been singing again together. And I'd like to invite you this morning to sing a hymn that's based on the meditation that Rev Christine led us in on loving kindness. I'm going to ask Jacob to play through the entire hymn once so you can hear it. And then we're going to sing it with the words for ourselves, for each other, and for all of us. So I, you, and we. And I invite you to look around the room at some of your, fellow friends as you're singing the second verse. So thank you, Jacob. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and
Immediately following service, we have our anniversary celebration outside. If you are inside, please put your masks on. Masks are optional outside. On newcomers, we do have the Get to Know UUCP in Annex H. We'll point you out. Ask folks. We'll be glad to take you there. May your practice to find your true self ease your suffering. May your exploration uncover all of the ways that our existence is tied up together with everyone else's. And may our collective work create more possibilities for peace in our minds, in our hearts, in our works, in our communities, and in our world. Go in peace, go in love.